I'm Carey Stinson, and my journey through life has been quite an adventure. For over 20 years, I played Barney the Dinosaur on tour and 7 seasons of the hugely popular TV show Barney and Friends. Now my journey is to bring together friends and guests from all over the entertainment world for inspiring and at times amusing behind-the-scenes conversation. I'm Carey Stinson, and this is Purple Roads. Welcome to Purple Roads. This is so cool to have Rob Paulsen. You know him from all of these many characters he's done over the year, including Yakko from Animaniacs, which is coming back. We've got Pinky from Pinky and the Brain. And I know there's an episode of Animaniacs we're going to want to talk about. So we will get into all of that and all the things that Rob's going on. Rob, how are you?
Well, I'm breathing and I'm not in jail, Carey, but the day's not over yet. So far, so good up here in the water tower.
I love it.
Thanks, buddy. I just realized if you had your show in Cairo, your show would be the Purple Roads of Cairo.
It would.
Thank you. Sorry about that. It was teed up for me.
No,
Thanks for having me, man. I'm just so grateful to be here. It's a pretty exciting time for an old Hollywood dog. I'm having a ball.
Hey, this is so great. I mentioned you were going to be on the show this week, and so many people are so excited about many things you've been doing.
Well, I get a lot now because I'm a bit older. I get people saying, gosh, I grew up with you, and I'm fine with that as long as it's not I threw up with you, which is possible, I suppose. But if I were in that state, I probably don't recall. So thank you. This is a great time, and fire away. I'm happy to talk about whatever you're kind enough to ask me.
It's funny. I went through the same thing. I started with Barney back in 1991. And so
right.
It's amazing how all of a sudden these little kids are now grown up and they're adults.
Sure.
So it's a very cool thing. So I want to start out, Rob, by finding out, how did you get into, was it acting to start off with, or did you go right into voiceover acting or voice acting?
Voice acting. Well, I actually, like most people my age who do this, Billy West, Maurice LaMarche, Tress MacNeille, John DiMaggio, we all have a live performance background. A lot of times it's stand-up. In my case, it was music first, and then improv and stage. And I moved to L.A., 100 years ago, ostensibly to do live action. And that's what I was doing. I was a singer first who became an actor. But in those days, it was a lot of commercials and St. Elsewhere and Hill Street and MacGyver and stuff like that. Those were the shows that were prevalent. Then in the mid-'80s, and by the way, I had always created character voices just because I enjoy it. It was, I think, like a lot of us who perform, if we're lucky, we find a way to make a living at it, but that truly isn't what the Jones is about. It's just doing it for its own sake. Art is probably a strong word, art for art's sake, but just the utter joy that I still derive at the same level from when I was a 10-year-old. It's really the same. So in the mid-'80s, my agent called and said, hey, have you ever thought about doing animation? I said, of course, but this many people did it all pretty much in those days. This was probably 1984, 85. Late 20s, and my agent called. I went in. I read for 2 shows, which ended up being G.I. Joe and Transformers. I booked the jobs, and immediately, especially as a non-celebrity talent, you walk in the room and you see wonderful actors, many of whom you've recognized from television, doing all these great, remarkable characters, but nobody cares what they look like. You're not limited by being an average-looking guy from Michigan, which is, of course, the story. When you first start out, it's about, do you look like the girl they hired to be your girlfriend? Do you fit the suit? Are you too tall for the guy that's supposed to be your brother? All that. So to be in a position where all of a sudden I'm 28, 29 years old and I had been working, but to be in a position where I was utterly unlimited by anything but my creativity and the kindness of people to hire me, I thought, oh my God, this is the frickin' job. And about 10 years after that, maybe 8 years, I just sort of said, okay, this is my career and I'm having a blast. I love it. I love the actors. I love the creativity. I'm a singer. I get to sing a lot, especially in Animaniacs. So if on-camera stuff goes away, I don't care. And now I have to tell you, I'm really glad I made that choice. I am working more now than I ever have. I'm a better actor than I was 20 years ago. My instincts are sharper. I put in my 10,000 hours, and I'm still not limited, this time by being an old, average-looking guy from Michigan. So that's how it happened, and boy, am I glad I'm glad I went down that road.
You know, it's funny. You see the Texas Forever in my shirt, but the rest of my household is Michigan.
Oh,
My girlfriend's from Detroit.
oh,
Kids.
great! Well, I've got my Red Wings hat on. Yeah, man, I'm pure
Going
Michigan.
crazy right now. They would be going crazy for that. So proud of you. Half the
That's
time I
great.
have to wear a Michigan hat because
Good.
this is a Michigan family here. So.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I still, as they say, I'm pure Michigan. I mean, I've been in LA forever. California's my home. I love it here. But I have to say, there is something really remarkable about that whole Midwest vibe. And especially now, I mean, I know Texas is a big football state,
Right.
and Ann Arbor and Michigan State and East Lansing. Oh my God, when you go back to a football game in Michigan under normal circumstances at the Big House, are you kidding me? 104,000 people in an enclosed space. Win or lose, it's a remarkable experience, especially when Ohio State's in town. But no, man, I'm very proud of my Michigan roots, and there are a lot of us out here. Dave Coulier, Tim Allen. I mentioned Purple Roads of Cairo. You know, Jeff lives back in Chelsea, Michigan. But yeah, a lot of Michiganders out here.
Yeah, they're having a little rough time right now with the football team. So
Oh.
I've had to walk quietly
Well,
the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, I played hockey my young life, and still play with my buddies. But so I'm a big Red Wings fan, and we've had some, good success in the last. Well, it's been a number of years.
Right.
But the Lions, Jesus, I
No.
I am not a fair weather friend. I've been with the Lions from as far as I can remember, but with the exception of Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders and a couple other guys, Steve Owens years ago, another Heisman winner. It's been rough, and but that's it. That's the way it goes. If the Red Wings did it, then someday we'll pull out the Lions. But c'est la vie.
Yeah, and they say that here too. They stick to it. They believe in it. We went and watched the Lions game on Sunday.
Yep.
And they love them. They love them. Hey, I'm really interested. What we were talking about here a moment ago, that your acting, you feel it's stronger and sharper.
Mm-hmm.
You're not working with, when you're on camera, usually you're working with other people.
Right.
Where a lot of times you're by yourself in this situation. Why do you feel it's become so much stronger?
Well, what the last part of your question, well, I'm sorry, second to the last part of your question is, nowadays, with the advent of the technology we have to record from home, especially now with COVID, but by and large, I would say virtually all the work that people know me from was done with other actors around me.
Oh, okay.
And it's acting is acting. Having done hundreds of stage things, half a dozen movies, half a dozen TV things, 40 commercials. I mean, performing is performing. Character development is character development. Also, in any endeavor, golf nut. If I play golf with guys who are scratch players, and at my best, I maybe am a 5 when I'm playing a lot. But to be able to play golf with guys who are way better, or women who are so much better, you just learn almost by osmosis. Same is true with acting. And out here, my God, Carey, you can throw a dart out here and hit good actors, but when I look back on my career, and fortunately I've still got a little bit further to go, but it's a who's who. Maurice LaMarche, Tress MacNeille, Nancy Cartwright, Dan Castellaneta, Billy West, John DiMaggio, Frank Welker, Peter Cullen, Megatron, and Optimus Prime, respectively. These people, pardon me, are so goddamn talented, and they're all my personal friends. Mark Hamill, Kevin Conroy, Brad Garrett, people who are so sharp. And I have the type of mindset that I'm very aware of how good the people are around me. And I think one of my gifts is being smart enough to know what I'm not smart at, and putting my ego aside and saying, oh my God, I don't care if this young woman or young man is 20 years younger than I. This kid just got off the bus from Dallas. He's killing it. I want to hear what this kid's doing. Sometimes that's in the same 30 seconds as a young man from Dallas saying, oh my God, Mr. Paulsen, I'm such a fan. I have everything you've ever, and then they open their mouths and I say, wow, well, you're the real deal and I'm so glad you're here. I love being surrounded by people better than I. And I'm good at my job, but I should be. Acting, in my view, or any creative endeavor, unless you become mentally compromised, is a lifelong process. I've never had a plan B. I am living my dream. I'm a blue-collar worker in the dream factory and very proud to be such, And one thing I always like to highlight, though, is especially with respect to what you were kind enough to celebrate me for, is I don't draw them and I don't write them. This is such a deeply collaborative effort. But I'll tell you what, man, when it works, when the art, the renderings work with the voice and the script is killer, whatever the context, it really is timeless and relevant, irrespective of how many generations. You can watch Bugs now, who's 80. And we love Looney Tunes. Simpsons is the longest running show in the history of television. You watch it from, 1983 or 84 or 85. It's pretty goddamn good. It's fantastic. So art is art, funny is funny, creativity is creativity. And one more thing about that whole aspect is I remember years ago reading, just after Paul Newman died, his last interview, he addressed what you and I discussed, what are discussing. He said, because I think he had just won an Oscar or was nominated for Road to Perdition, which I think was his last movie. Beautiful film. I think Conrad Hall won an Oscar for the cinematography, which is his last movie too. But in the article, Mr. Newman said, honestly, the question was similar. How did you keep getting better as something similar? He said, you know what, honestly, I don't think I really got it until I was 70. Now, coming from a guy like Paul Newman.
Says a lot.
Yeah. And so I understand what he means. It's not about being a movie star or well-known. It's about creativity being first and foremost. And it is. It's a desperate Jones. It's a passion. It's like a chemical thing for me and many others. So that's why I'm better now and hopefully won't be I'm not good as now as I will be when I'm 75,
So let's talk about that creativity. When you're creating a character, so let's talk about, because one of my favorites is Pinky. Are you seeing the animation first? Or are you kind of giving a description when you're creating, let's say, Pinky's voice?
Well, firstly, you have excellent taste in cartoon characters. And look what happens to your face. Now, ladies and gentlemen,
right.
Isn't that glorious? You can't help it, Carey. Yeah. It is organic. Now, again, I didn't draw him, I didn't write him, but I'm the one who gets the juice because of the voice, and I'm very grateful. But folks, you saw what happened, and I suspect there are many people watching this to whom the same thing happened. That is glorious. It is not about money. It is not about action figures, and you're talking to 50% of the Ninja Turtles. I know a lot about that. Right. It's about this pure connection with joy. And so to answer your question, it's a little bit of everything. It is not like Mrs. Doubtfire. That is to say, proprietary animation, new original animation is done, the recording is done first. Then the storyboard artists, the animators, draw the funny pictures to match what we've done. Pardon me. That way, we're not locked into what is on the screen. So if I come up with an improv line, or the writers say, "Oh, you know what? We got a better line. Try this." We can have all sorts of different takes, and then the producers and the director get together and say, "All right, here's how we're going to cobble this together." now let's draw the pictures to fit what the actors did. It can be done backwards. If you're doing dubbing into another language, a lot of people, anime is huge. I don't work in anime, but that, of course, is virtually all Japanese or Korean work that is dubbed into English and other languages. So in that case, they got a challenge of trying to fit in a phrase that might be a lot longer than the Japanese phrase, to make the same point. But then they got to tweak it. So, it generally is all the work I've done. All of it, I think, has been acting first, then, the pictures.
I'm still smiling thinking about hearing Pinky.
I'm so glad, and the fact is that the brain called me and said, tell Carey that don't tell him I said so, Pinky, but he's way smarter than I am. It's taken me 25 years and I still haven't taken over the bloody world, so get him.
Oh, I love it. I think it has a lot to do with, it just reminds you of great times in your life.
Bingo.
And all the things that are going on and the craziness and all those things.
Oh, Carey.
You can just sit and enjoy.
Well, you said it right there much more succinctly than I. Clearly, I was aptly cast as Yakko. I haven't shut up for 15 minutes. But you're right. And you touched earlier, and we'll discuss the reboot of Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain. But I got to tell you, man, in my lifetime, and obviously I would say yours, I'm probably older than you by a fair amount. But the point is that I don't know of a time in my life when the phrase "we're all in this together" has ever been more relevant, and as a result of this technology, truer. Also, for obvious reasons, COVID, the world economy, politics, race issues, all of the things that really need to be addressed, essentially all over the world. And we're connected. But it turns out, Mr. Spielberg obviously has the magic touch. It turns out that at the end of 2020, which has undoubtedly delivered a ton of nasty, stinky, sour lemons. 1 billion lemons have been dumped on 2020. And Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain, while we're not going to change the world, what timing? Exactly what you talked about, Carey. We have the opportunity to deliver a big frickin' vat of lemonade to at least the fans of our show that will say, oh my God, for a few hours I'm able to laugh my guts out. I'm able to share it with my children, maybe my grandchildren. As soon as Rob Paulsen does this, and Tress MacNeille does Dot, and Jess does Wacko, I'm back to eating, Cocoa Krispies like your girlfriend sitting on my floor in Detroit. It is such a timeless thing, and to be able to be in the privileged position of trying to find a way to shoehorn some laughter in there at the end of the year, we've won the lottery, man.
No question. It is so perfect timing for this. Now, what was it like for you to find out it was coming back after doing this character so long ago, and then here it is again? I can just imagine how excited you had to have been.
Well, you're correct. I've got long sleeves on because my arms are black and blue from pinching myself. Obviously, anytime you get to work steadily, it's a great thing. And fortunately, I've been able to work steadily for the last number of years. But Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain are two shows that really, to me, do live up to that axiom that art for the sake of the art. As I mentioned, I was Raphael in the original Turtles, Donatello on Nickelodeon for 5 or 6 years, a few years back. $6 billion in merchandise over the years on Turtles. Action figures, I would argue there are places in the world you could go and mention Brad Pitt, and they might say, I don't know, but you say Ninja Turtles, they go, oh, Las Tortugas Ninjas, Cowabunga, right?
Very good.
And that's probably true. But in the case of Pinky and the Brain and Animaniacs, these are two shows that had very little merchandise. It was not about that. It was about the content, the cleverness, the timelessness, the relevancy, the lampooning of sacred cows and the zeitgeist, all the things that make us love humor, like Looney Tunes or Flintstones or Rocky and Bullwinkle or now Family Guy or Simpsons, that they push the envelope, but they're utterly, obviously Family Guy goes a little bit further, and I get that, but
Right.
But the point is that these shows, the two that we're discussing, really tick the boxes for adults and kids. And that was the edict from Mr. Spielberg and Tom Ruegger and the creative team at the time to say, oh, no, we're going to take our cues from Looney Tunes. Because I can watch Kill the Wabbit, right? It's 40,
Absolutely.
50 years old, 60 years old. It's Mahler, or Wagner. And so I'm listening to Ride of the Valkyries sung by Elmer Fudd. It was genius in the 50s and 60s, and it still is. And I think what the reboot proves is that they got it right. Even if the reboot weren't coming, there wouldn't be the fuss, but people could watch Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain and share it with their children and grandchildren who weren't born when we did them, and they would still be funny. People would still be blown away with United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru. It's a remarkable song. Yeah. So to get a chance to do it again with the old band, with the king of Hollywood, and Mr. Spielberg, talk about hanging out with the best. People need to know that while I certainly don't hang out with Mr. Spielberg, I've had the great good fortune of meeting him a number of times and working with him on everything from E.T. in 1982 back to Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain now. Really a nice man. It's a wonderful opportunity to see how people who could behave any way they want, got $4 billion, he is who he is, a pile of Oscars, but he's the most down-to-earth, kind, and moreover, when this show, the new show was being discussed from the get-go, Mr. Spielberg made it clear to Sam Register, the head of Warner Brothers Animation, that if we do this, we're doing it with Tress, Jess, Maurice, and Rob. They still do it. They're doing it better than they used to. It's not about their age. It's not about how they look. It's about the authenticity of the characters. And if we reboot this with other actors, it's not about celebrity. It's not about bringing Peter Dinklage in to be the Brain and Russell Brand to be Pinky.
Right.
It's about the authenticity and what made this show become iconic. And so for a non-celebrity talent, and like I said, I'm good at my job, but this is about the character. And Steven, Mr. Spielberg, right from the get-go, it was like, if you guys are in, I'll pitch it. And how about that?
I love you say that. I've been in this kids pop culture entertainment for a long time.
Yeah.
And authenticity is exactly it.
Mm-hmm.
These fans know these characters, and they would know if you changed any of those voices.
Immediately.
Yeah.
They would. And we've seen a couple of reboots, one of which I recall a couple of years ago. I think Cartoon Network did a reboot of Powerpuff Girls, which was a successful show. Respectfully, I don't think it was quite in the same realm as Pinky and the Brain or Ninja Turtles in terms of being a reboot, but a popular show.
Right.
However, they replaced the three young ladies who are still working every day, really talented girls. And it kind of just, because the first thing that the audience said was, what happened to the Powerpuff Girls?
Right.
And it's interesting that you talk about the authenticity, because it's ever thus. I remember years ago doing a Jetsons movie at Hanna-Barbera, and it's a good story for two reasons. The first one is that when I got to work, I remember that Gordon Hunt, who's the late great Gordon Hunt, directed all the cartoons at Hanna-Barbera when I was working there. And he was also Helen Hunt's father, and a marvelous director and a wonderful acting coach, and really put me on the map. And I remember getting to work on the Jetsons project. He said, "Hey, Rob," as you recall, Mel Blanc played Mr. Slate. Jetson, right? And so I got to work, and he said, "You want to sit next to Mel Blanc?" Oh my God, of course. So he was probably late 70s at the time. And I sat next to him, introduced myself, and I said, "Mr. Blanc, oh my goodness, what a pleasure. Like anyone with a pulse, I am such a fan." I said, "Thank you, young man. It's a pleasure to meet you." I said, "If it's not too much trouble, would you," and he knew what I wanted, and he looked at me and said, "Yeah, what's up, Doc?" And it galvanized my soul. I said, it was bugs, and it hit me, I mean, right where I live. But the other part of that story, with respect to authenticity, is that the producers at the time decided they wanted to stunt cast Judy Jetson, which was a pretty iconic voice.
Yes.
Everybody knows Judy, Rosie the Robot, George, Jane, right? All that. Astro, Elroy, everybody knows those voices. And the lovely late Janet Waldo was probably 70 at the time. She sounded great. I'd worked with her on a Jetsons, a couple of TV things, but the movie came along, and the producers at Hanna-Barbera decided they would get, do you remember the pop singer Tiffany?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lovely girl. Not her fault. But they thought, well, she's the flavor of the month. We're going to get a little celebrity. So sorry, Janet. Firstly, it broke her heart.
Oh, I can.
She was a pro. Business is business. She got over it. But you know what? When that film came out, Charles Champlin, who I think is passed on, but was the lead movie critic for the LA Times, the first thing that he wrote in the LA Times was, "Whoever thought it was a good idea to replace Janet Waldo should be ashamed of themselves." Right out of the bat. I mean, right out of the chute. And he was absolutely right. A number of us just said, "I don't know if you want my name on this. This is so not, I don't know, it's all about the joy and the authenticity that the Jetsons brought to millions of people. And to eliminate that in the hopes that you might get a few more eyeballs, because she's not an actor. And she's a lovely young girl and a good singer."
Right.
And the movie tanked, and it should have. So yeah, authenticity is absolutely key, especially if you're going to take a shot at bringing something back that has brought so much joy to so many people.
No question. I'm just thrilled that they've done this right, bringing back Animaniacs the way they have.
Yeah.
And, you talk about lampooning, and I have to bring it up because the show that I worked on for a long time was one of them.
Thank you.
Maloney and Friends. And
thank you.
Me and all the Barney people absolutely love it. And so I got to ask about it. Where did it come from?
Well,
you got to it.
I'm glad you said that you enjoyed it. I have to tell you, we lampooned a number of not only sacred cows or sacred dinosaurs, but we also had some celebrities. I remember there was a joke that I remember sitting next to Tress recording this episode in which Yakko is like an Inspector Poirot mystery guy. And there's a joke at the expense of the late rock star where Yakko says fingerprints, and Dot is holding Prince, and she looks at him and says, "Fingerprints? I don't think so," and throws him out the window. And I thought, there's no way we're getting through it. Fingerprints or fingerprints. It depends on which access you know.
Yeah.
And I'll be damned. Not only did we get through it, but now we have a lot of younger people who are 30 and 35 saying, "Fingerprints? Okay." Prince, in an interview once, when a guy asked him about this, "Oh my God, I loved it. There's something," he said, "Are you kidding me? I love being immortalized in a Warner Brothers cartoon." Prince said that. So my point is, you're in good company. Barney was so perfect because the voice is pretty easy for actors to get their to grasp, because it's a big voice. It's
Right.
a cartoony voice. It's a little bit of do,
Right.
and it's lovely and but it's sort of like Ed Wynn. Everybody can do Ed Wynn because everybody wants to go fly a kite. You know what I mean? It's not.
I do.
Yeah, it's not subtle by design. It's a big purple dinosaur with this gloriously charming voice that, as you know better than anyone, children and their parents weep. It's the most beautiful thing. But that tees it up to really be tweaked because, and I'm sure you've talked to the parents. There are parents, and it happened to me with Ninja Turtles, Carey, I can't even tell you. People would say, with all due respect, Mr. Paulsen, I'm so sick and tired of Ninja Turtles. Right? And it wasn't, and I totally get it.
Yeah, I do too.
They would do anything, as did I, to make their children happy. And if Barney is coming to the LA Forum, I went with my kid twice, and he loved it. And the same thing when they had like Ninja Turtles doing live events and all that stuff. I wasn't involved in that, but when people found out what I did, they were just, oh my God, if I have to buy another goddamn action figure. So I understand it. Yeah. And I have to say that episode has been one of the probably top 10 that people love. And it really, truly is, as you know, I know you know because you're a pro and you've been doing it a long time, but imitation really desperately is, and I mean desperately, is the sincerest form of flattery. If you're important enough and a big enough deal that Steven Spielberg and Warner Brothers want to take a crack at you, that's a big deal. So, yeah, well done.
We all loved it, and I had to watch it again today, and it just made me smile so much.
Thank you. That coming from you, that's a yum dum diddly yum compliment.
Well, and the fact that it was also that character made it to several of the others, including Pinky and the Brain.
Totally. And again, though, that is because that episode really resonated. So not only did your character, and not only did Barney become a big part of Animaniacs and the legacy, but it didn't take long for the writers to go, oh my God, people love this. Let's bring him back. Let's find other ways. It's a running gag. And that, again, it's just more gas on the fire. It's more, Jesus, we love this guy. And people love that we're doing this because the parents can watch, and they did watch Animaniacs with their kids, and the kids would go, wow, that's like Barney. And the parents would go, yeah, it is. And so when you can tick that many boxes and 25 years later have this conversation, you just know they got it right. So I'm so glad you brought it up, and I'm so happy that you liked it.
Oh, it's hysterical.
Thank you.
Absolutely hysterical. We talked a little bit about live. So I did, with Barney, I did the TV show, but I also did the tour for 5 years.
Oh my God.
So I had the opportunity to do live, which to me is just one of the most incredible experiences. And I know you were doing Animaniacs live, and I've seen some of it. And I want to hear, what was it like for you getting out of the studio and getting in front of the fans and getting to be able to perform?
Well, boy, you're terrific. You're asking all the right questions. I'm having a blast. As I mentioned, I started out doing my gig in live music, live theater, and as you're right, you don't have to be a rock star or Barney or Yakko. If you're in a rock and roll band or you're in a club act and you got a couple hundred people dancing, having a couple of drinks, and they start to really love you, oh man, it's like, it really is like a drug.
Yeah.
And there is nothing like it. Stand up, music. People have to hold for a laugh because you're killing it in a stage play, or hold for tears. There is nothing like the immediacy of an audience reaction, irrespective of what the performance is about. I knew, as a result of the success of Animaniacs and subsequent interviews when the show had been over, people would always bring up the music. It's hard not to. It was remarkable. Again, Steven Spielberg, you get a 35, 40-piece orchestra for every half hour, just like Looney Tunes. It just doesn't get any better. I read music. I'm a singer. That show represents to me the absolute best example in my life of luck is when opportunity meets preparation. Little did I know when I was honing my skills as a singer and then creating characters and singing in character for the noblest of reasons, it just makes me happy, that one day I'd go, oh my God, I know these people. I've worked with them on Tiny Toons. Steven Spielberg again? Music? This is my pitch. I'm gonna kill it. I was right. I had to audition, but it worked out, and my instincts were correct. So when the show had been off for a while, and people who were kids started growing up, I called Randy Rogel, who wrote The Countries of the World, States and the Capitals, The Presidents. It's a great big universe, and we're all really puny. We're just tiny little specks about the size of Mickey Rooney. All that great stuff.
Yeah.
I said, Randy, people love this music. I mean, they really do. If I'm doing, Dallas Comic-Con, and we're doing a Q&A and 2,000 people in the audience, I can just finish it up. Somebody will say, Mr. Paulsen, I have a question. Do you still know Yakko's World? Sure. I don't need music. It doesn't matter. It's such a remarkable song because of the writing. I'm good at my job, but I live in Hollywood. You can throw a dart and hit somebody who can sing. So writing that stuff is a completely different animal. But I would do it a cappella. And by the end, Tunisia, Morocco, Uganda, Angola, Zimbabwe, Djibouti, Botswana. People were freaking out, standing on their feet. No music, just some whack job guy singing that crazy freaking song. So anyway, Randy and I said, we should start doing this for real. Warner Brothers, God bless them, this was years ago, 6 years ago, gave us a sweetheart licensing deal by which we're able to take the music and clips and perform that music all around the country. We had 14 bookings this year, which have been a little bit kiboshed, but everybody has. But I'm telling you what, man, it is remarkable. And the breadth of the audience, Carey, is 10 years old to 70. Whether we do it at the City Winery in Chicago or the Chuckle Hut in Boston with 200 people and Randy and me and a piano, or Randy, me, Tress MacNeille, Jess Harnell, Maurice LaMarche, Pinky the Brain, and Yakko Aquindot, all singing different songs with an 80-piece orchestra and a giant 50-foot screen so that all the music and sound is coming from the stage in sync with the screen.
Right.
Either way, everybody loves it. And everybody sticks around afterwards to have something signed or to tell you the story about how Animaniacs or Randy's music. This rambling excitement that you see is utterly authentic. Every time we do it, Randy and I get backstage, we're exhausted from saying thank you, and the audience is out of their minds. I think that's borne out by the anticipation of the reboot. The two trailers that have been released by Hulu and Amblin have a.
And they're funny. I've seen them. They're hysterical.
They're hysterical. I think collectively they're about 4 minutes long, but they got 10 million views in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And again, we're back again. This time, Steve and Julie Bernstein are running the music. They were there with the late, great Richard Stone at the first batch of full orchestra again. The songs are unbelievable. Randy's writing new ones again. And man, you hit the nail on the head. As much as I love being in the studio, and I always will because I get to be with my buddies, and it's a beautiful way to pay for cat food and toilet paper.
Right.
But man, being on stage and seeing people, often they'll be in tears because the music really hits them. It's so powerful. It's funny. It's nostalgic. And they know the words. It's the coolest thing in the world. I cannot wait to get back on the road. We actually have about 8 dates booked for next year.
Oh, good.
Tentatively. But my suspicion is that all the reboot is going to do is pour gas on our fire.
Yeah.
And that when the audience knows that we're back on the road, it's a lovely, lovely evening. And you will leave exhausted from laughing. Yeah.
Well, and people are just going to want to get out and
Absolutely
laugh and get away from all this craziness.
Yeah, man. It is. But like you said, if you're a performer and you get to do it in front of people and they like it, moreover, they come to see you. You're not just the person who happens to be the band of the week at the club.
Right.
But if people go out of their way to buy a ticket for Barney or buy a ticket for Animaniacs, they're coming on purpose to see you. It makes us better, the performers, and the audience, especially when you can deliver. It's just the best on both sides of the equation.
So both of us have had the honor of getting to visit hospitals.
Oh.
And I know this is a subject that can get emotional. Because,
no, that's okay.
But
please do.
It's something that, it changed my life forever. I went to hospitals for years and years and years and got to see these kids. And, at the beginning you think you're there for them, and you find out later they're really changing and touching your life. What was the experience like for you to get to go and see these children?
It's very difficult. As much as I talk, it's difficult to contextualize, just to put into words what being, you said it right, the honor. It's a privilege to be let in to a family's world when they're dealing with often the impending death of their baby. My son is 36 and married. I never had to deal with that. I truly, honestly, Carey, I don't know how people get up the next day and get on with their lives. I just don't know how they do it. Yet they do, every day. Right now, we're having this lovely chat. Right now, somebody's getting a phone call about their 4-year-old with a glioblastoma or something, or some devastatingly nefarious, horrible thing. But let me tell you, and again, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but for me, it really started to happen in earnest when Ninja Turtles hit. It was about 1991 or so, when it had been out for a couple of years and it became what it is. And so myself and the other Turtle guys, and we would get calls from child life specialists at hospitals, and we'd put our names in with a lovely group out here called Famous Phone Friends, and it could have been Michael Jordan on the phone, it could have been Raphael, it could have been Pinky, it could have been Mickey Mouse, it could have been Wayne Gretzky, didn't matter. We all did it and all still do it. But my son at the time was 7 or 8. And I had spoken to a lot of kids on the phone. It's perfect for what I do. And you can pull that voice out like this. And man, they buy it, hook, line, and sinker. And it's perfect. But every now and then, the hospital, especially here in LA Children's Hospital, or better, if I was doing a convention and signing things, and I'd be in DC, they'd say, the Washington, DC, the Children's Hospital, DC, or wherever, Shriners Hospitals, whatever it was. And of course, all of us would say, oh, you bet. If you don't feel it's too, if it would blow it too much for the kids, because we're the voices. I don't dress up in Yakko's costume.
Right.
And often they would say, no, the parents want Pinky to come in. And their kids love it too, but their kid is 12 and they get it. Oh my God. It really contextualized, that's where I should use this word. It contextualized what I perceived as a problem. That all of a sudden the fact that my kid would spill a chocolate milkshake on a white sofa was not a big deal at all. I became a better parent. I think I became a better human. And you are 100% correct. The children, many of whom have gone, have left, have passed away, and the parents would keep in touch with me. And here they are, they call us, they call you, and they thank us. They thank Barney for showing up. There's something wrong with that. I'm the one who got way more than they did, and they lost their child. I cannot do it enough. And it's selfish because I crave it. I love it. It's like air. I think that's what's so exciting about the show coming back again at this level, is that I know that we're all going to get asked to call people and talk to them on the phone. Mr. Paulsen, I'm now 40. My 13-year-old, has got leukemia. We think she's going to be okay, but God, she loves Animaniacs. Could Yakko give her a call? Are you kidding me? Of course. I cannot get enough of it. And I love talking to you about it because one could argue that there's no character, with the exception of maybe Mickey, in the world who got more time with kids than you, man. What a...
Yeah, it was an unbelievable experience. I was 23 years old when I started. So when I got asked to go to my first hospital, I didn't really understand.
Well, you're still a kid.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you go in and you start realizing, I actually never saw anyone sad. And you know what's going on. I've been in burn units, cancer units, Make-A-Wish, and I've told some of these stories before, but when you see a child that's got a huge part of their body burned and they're singing the I Love You song and smiling and blowing kisses and saying, Barney, I love you, it was a little overwhelming at first, as you can imagine, but then you just realize you're there for them. They're controlling this, and this is about them 100%.
Totally.
And you're exactly right. It is hard to go, why are you thanking me for something when you're giving me everything? But you get to the point where you just don't even think about it anymore.
No.
Just go.
You just go. It is absolutely organic. I don't even think about it. I can't say yes fast enough. And again, it's not like I'm special. All of us do this. I think that, and by the way, that's a big deal at 22. I came to LA at 22 to work. And the first hospital stuff I did was probably when I was 32.
Oh, wow.
Turtles, 31, 32. So my son was already 3 or 4 years old. And it's not for everybody.
Right.
My wife, as much as she loved that I did that, she couldn't handle it. There's no way. And she would say through tears, I don't know how you do it. I said, well, I can't not do it.
Right.
But I'm not heroic. It's, as you said, it's like, of course you do it. But again, I got more out of it than the children and their parents, at least as far as I'm concerned. But it does take some getting used to. And honest to God, Carey, I don't know that I could have handled it emotionally when I was 22. That's a pretty remarkable thing for you to have been able to grapple with and move forward, because from a lot of angles, firstly, it's disturbing for obvious reasons. It's heartbreaking. Sometimes it smells bad. Sometimes it looks really ghastly, the burn unit. And I've had a number of times where the child life specialist will prepare me. I'm sure they did with you too. Just before you go in, you got to know that this little girl was in a really, really horrible car accident. She's okay, I think, but she's tough to look at. And it's not for everybody. And it doesn't mean that people who can't handle that are not kind, generous, empathic, loving people.
Right.
It's brutal. But as you said, once they start blowing kisses, or once you see mom and dad going, I love Pinky and the Brain. Pinky's here talking to my little boy. Everybody's happy.
Right.
And I just, what a privilege we've had.
Yeah.
You know, I've worked really hard for the privilege of being let in to the most intimate, difficult time in these lovely people who are strangers until I open my mouth. Then all of a sudden it's like, hey, Yakko's my buddy.
Right.
Oh my God, I can't. And the number of times that I've gone to sleep in the hotel the night if I'm on the road, or get home and you know, recount visiting with children and their parents, or all it does again is make me so grateful for what I've got. It does make you go into your kid's room and give them a kiss and have a there but for the grace of God moment over and over and over and over again. And I'm just a better human as a result of it.
You inspire so many people with what you do.
Thank you.
You also now inspire people because you are a cancer survivor.
Oh yeah, surprise, throat cancer.
Throat cancer, and that, what you do for a living. I can only imagine the shock of it, and then the determination to battle it and beat it.
Thank you. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because it feeds perfectly into what we were discussing. I did not realize, obviously, when I started doing hospital visits and calling kids on the phone, and that someday I was going to be the guy in the bed, or I was going to be the one saying, oh no, what's going on? But Carey, I was diagnosed, it was 4 years ago. I was diagnosed when I was already a grown-up. My son was healthy, married, doing great. It was stage 3 metastatic squamous cell carcinoma. The primary tumor was at the base of my tongue, but it was discovered because I had a pretty big knot on the left side of my neck, which turned out to be the area to which the cancer had spread. No pain, was doing my job, singing every day, hockey player. I wasn't losing weight or anything like that. And when I was diagnosed, the doctors said, okay, this is what it is. We got it in time, and we're virtually sure we can cure you. We're going to give you an 82, 83% of being okay 7 years out. Great odds. But before we cure you, we almost have to kill you. It's rough. For obvious reasons. It's your mouth, it's your throat. And I mean, anytime you're diagnosed with cancer or something, it's pretty freaky. But I'll tell you what, never once did my wife, my son, my daughter-in-law, or I freak out and say, why me? My goodness, Carey, we've just had this chat about these lovely, courageous, impossibly brave people that you and I have been exposed to so many times. Shame on me if I immediately went to, oh no, I had, like most people do not. And by the way, if you freak out, it's totally normal. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that,
sure.
Of course, what I'm saying is that I, like you, had the singular privilege over and over again of having these great teachers in the guise of these sweet babies and their parents on how to really deal with a curveball, the kind of curveball that you can't even grasp, get your head around with respect to your own children. And here you are going, oh my God, it happened to me. So that when I was diagnosed, I promise you, the first thought I had when I really sat down and started to take stock of, okay, here's the treatment protocol. It's going to be tough. It's going to hurt. That's the way it goes. You're going to be fine. It's going to be uncomfortable for a year and change, but okay. Even if they had said, you better go home and get your stuff in order because this is really, I had great insurance and all that. I'd had a wonderful career. I wasn't quite ready to check out, but I had nothing about which to be sad. But that's not what they had told me. Moreover, I immediately reflected on how many children and their parents who had bravery way beyond my comprehension of what real bravery is about and courage. And I immediately thought, oh, you got this. You so got this. You got people who love you. You've got world-class health care. You have, within 24 hours, you have 5 doctors in your life who now know what you do for a living, and they're going to make sure that they create a treatment protocol that, to the extent they can, salvages, your voice box and your vocal cords. They did say, we're not sure if when you're done you'll be able to do your job at the same level. There's every possibility you might lose a couple of notes or whatever. You will be able to speak, and you're not going to lose your voice. But I don't know if you're going to be able to. And that's, frankly, we're just here to save your life. And I totally get that.
Right.
It was not dour, but I'm a grown-up. They had to say, here's the deal. But the treatment was exactly what they said. It was very difficult, but time and time and time again, I reflected on Chad or on Jordy or on Carly or on Stephanie or on Eric and their respective parents who kept in touch with me. And it was all it took was time and patience and and a lot of pain meds. But Rob 2.0 now is different, but not in bad ways. I lost 50 pounds. I put about 20 of it back on. I can't really taste food anymore. So food for me is a drug to keep me alive. But so what?
Right.
The most wonderful thing I can tell you, after being a throat cancer survivor, several things. Firstly, a couple years ago, the fine folks at the Head and Neck Cancer Alliance reached out to me to be their spokesman. And I just got re-upped for a second year. But the people who had my type of cancer, which sadly just recently took Eddie Van Halen, and a few years ago took Roger Ebert, and by the way, it's not a pretty way to go. Nobody wants to leave from anything like that. But we saw how brave Mr. Ebert was in allowing us to see him. He had half his face removed. And that's where I was headed if I didn't jump on this. But the people who were the Head and Neck Cancer Alliance spokespeople before me were Jim Kelly, the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, Hall of Famer, 4-time Super Bowl quarterback, who had the same type of cancer I did. Oh, yeah, he can throw a football. But you watch that man stand up in front of a group of badass football players talking about his cancer. That's a hero. And he did this before me. And before him, it was Michael Douglas. And so talk about a platinum lining. Then nice people like Carey Stinson has me on his show and allows me to talk about this experience. And the glory of it is that we don't know who's going to watch this and someday meet you at an event and say, hey, Carey, I forgot the name of that guy, Ron Pullman. I don't know, the guy that does the cartoon voices. But I watched that, and my dad had just been diagnosed. And so I went to headandneck.org, because Mr. Paulsen is the spokes-tune, and I learned a lot, and I helped my dad. He's going to be okay. But boy, did I learn a lot. That is what is so beautiful about this opportunity. But it's come full circle. I had, again, opportunity meets preparation. I was lucky enough to be diagnosed with cancer after I had hundreds of people, children and their parents, allow me to see what they went through. That was my preparation. And then the opportunity came that wouldn't have presented itself were it not for my cancer. So I got lucky again. And then on the heels of that, I'm back to doing my work at the same level I was before I had cancer, which in itself was a bit of a miracle to me, with Mr. Spielberg again.
Right.
So all these doors are going to be opened again so that Yakko can call from the water tower and saying, hey, Jeremy, how you feeling, buddy? That's all right. Once you get through it, you come out to the water tower and we'll have a blast. Unless, of course, you're arrested getting on the lot, then you're on your own. But you see my point.
I do.
I just cannot imagine moving through life any better. I've won the frickin' lottery.
Well, you've inspired a lot of people.
Thank you, man.
You're inspiring me. I love getting to talk to you about all of these things.
Thank you.
A couple of things really, really quickly while I got you here.
Sure.
I want to talk about the book a little bit.
Oh.
Voice lessons.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, as a result of the cancer, I had a book in me. I had lovely, well-meaning fans who said for years, "Oh my God, you Pinky and Carl Weezer from Jimmy Neutron." And
big fan of that too. I love.
Oh, thank you so much, Carey. I'm so grateful that you dig a little chubby guy with it in hair. But Jimmy Neutron, Fairly Odd Parents, Biker Mice from Mars, The Mask, The Tick, Goof Troop, Darkwing Duck, forget it. And fans were very sweet, and I certainly accepted the compliment and the spirit in which they were delivered. You should write a book, my God. But truly, the last thing the world needs is another celebrity memoir from Hollywood, especially by a non-celebrity, and it's not false modesty. As we discussed, the characters are famous. However, once I had cancer, more importantly, throat cancer, and once I was able to come back and Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain and Steven Spielberg were part of the equation post-cancer, I had an important story. And whether people get a dog-eared copy that they find when they're, taking over a new apartment that somebody left behind, you just never know when the serendipitous nature of stuff like that may help. So I'll be damned. I got a book deal. And the heavy lifting, just like I don't draw them and I don't write them in terms of the scripts and the characters, my friend Mike Fleeman, who wrote the book with me, did the heavy lifting. I didn't know how to write a book. I still don't. But having had a professional writer who that's all he does is write books, I was put in touch with him via my publicist, and we just really hit it off. And to take what to me was, an interesting story, if I can be as objective as I can. I've had a remarkable life. No rehab visits yet. Same woman, been married, put up with me for 30 odd years. I'm a typical person in that regard, but I've worked with some really remarkable people on things that have turned out to be remarkable themselves. So I've had a pretty interesting life. But when it's written and constructed by somebody who knows how to write and how to take those interesting anecdotes and move them around so that, like a Rubik's Cube, where people read it and say, "Oh man, this is a very readable book." And then you had throat cancer? Oh my God. And it is a good book. But the upshot is that it is a helpful book because it reminds us, just like you've been so sweet to talk to me about this, is that courage, empathy, kindness, stick-to-itiveness, like love, often come from the most unexpected places. A guy dressed in a purple dinosaur suit, or an average-looking guy who, when he opens his mouth, says, "Oh my God, that's Pinky. I can't believe it. Here's my Pinky tattoo." And that happens all the time.
Oh, I bet.
That's what it's about. And so, it's called Voice Lessons, and the subtitle is How Ninja Turtles, Pinky, and an Animaniac Saved My Life. And it's true, because as a result of my relationships, short though they may have been, with all of those children and their parents, those characters vicariously saved my life. They got me through my time in the cancer cage because I was reminded about how much good they did for the other folks. And I thought, if they can do it, I can do it. Well, now somebody may watch this lovely conversation that you and I are having and saying, "Hey, if that guy Rob Paulsen can do it, I can do it." That's what we're here for. It really is that simple.
No question. And I think that's what we're all realizing with all everything going on and all the nastiness, that we all need to help each other.
100% on the nose. And that's what I love about this confluence of humanity and technology.
Yeah.
That you are giving me an opportunity to tell my story with all of your followers, all of your fans, and you never know. Somebody may watch this 5 years from now on some different platform that Purple Roads is part of. It doesn't matter. Once I've punched my ticket and I'm gone, it's about what we've left behind.
Yeah.
That's it. And honestly, you and I have had so many wonderful opportunities. Shame on us if we didn't do what you're doing, if we didn't take the opportunity to sit down and have a lovely chat, to not only share our lovely, wonderful stories, but to really hit home about the power of joy, the power of laughter. It is undeniable. It is,
and the power of love.
the power of love. It is not limited by culture, not limited by age. It's not even limited by intellectual capabilities. I know that you've had a lot of interactions with kids on the autism spectrum.
Yes.
So have I. And man,
It's incredible.
when I see a young man or woman who, for the rest of their lives, may have very special gifts in certain areas, but as a result of the challenges of autism, they will have trouble buying a Slurpee on their own. They're always going to need some help. Not all of them, but sometimes we see that. So when I see a set of parents in their 50s bringing their 28 or 30-year-old son or daughter to meet Pinky or Yakko or Raphael or Donatello, happens to Kevin Conroy with Batman, happens to Mark Hamill with the Joker, it happens to all of us. And they will often drive 2 states away, stand in line, and sometimes the young man or woman is rocking back and forth because often the circumstances of a convention are so loud and difficult. Often folks on the autism spectrum have a lot of problem with
Yes.
audio, right? Yeah. But I'll be damned. They may not know who Rob Paulsen is, but Mom and Dad have said, we're going to take you, Andrew, to meet Yakko. And because Yakko, for whatever reason, is the critter that gets Andrew out of his head and allows him to be verbal and joyful. And when I see 10, 12 people down the road, the young man doing whatever it takes to get through it, I mean, miserable. But there's a payoff. And Mom is rubbing his back, whatever. They make it up to me. Yakko starts talking, and for 10 minutes, they're utterly joyful. They're just like every other kid in the room. Nobody's casting aspersions. Nobody's looking at him funny. Nobody's saying, what's that guy's problem? Everybody is laughing at the same thing. Cut to, and this is what's so important to me. I have a friend who is a world-class physicist who teaches physics at Caltech out here. He just released a book about his time with Stephen Hawking. He wrote 3 books with Stephen Hawking. What is so important about what you said about laughter and love and joy being, it's not about anything but being human.
Yeah.
This young man whom I talked about, Andrew, who has a hell of a hard time until Yakko starts talking, and then boom, he's focused, he smiles. My pal, Leonard Mlodinow, who wrote 3 books with Stephen Hawking, laughs at the same goddamn thing. And they could not be more disparate in their intellect. It's not about anything but this purely human emotion of joy. And this young man, Andrew, will never, I don't think, be able to comprehend what Leonard does with black holes and stuff. I don't comprehend it. But they both laugh at the same time, at the same joke, at the same character. And I love that about the human experience. wherever that comes from, it's not about anything. Intellect, money, language, religion. It's a pure connection to joy. And I don't know how to think of any way to move through life any better. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, pal.
It's such a beautiful story. I can't thank you enough for joining me today.
Thank you.
It's been such a joy. Can we finish with a few of these characters that everyone loves and I love?
Yeah, I'll tell you one. Here's one that's pretty cool. Randy Rogel, our buddy who wrote The Countries of the World, because he had 11 minutes on a Tuesday, thought, I know, I'll write a new stanza, including all the countries that have sprung up since that song was written. So it goes like this. It goes, hang on, post-cancer, I don't have any saliva glands anymore. It goes like this. Montenegro and Bosnia, Herzegovina, the Soviet Union is gone. South Africa, Georgia, Moldova, Latvia, Belarus, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, hey, Kazakhstan, hey, then there's Tajikistan too, hey, Turkmenistan, hey, Kurdistan, Armenia, Tonga, Palau, Lithuania, Serbia, Kosovo, US Samoa, the Balkans, Brunei, Macau and Crimea, then Eritrea, Ukraine and Estonia, here's Macedonia, New Caledonia, Eastern Slavonia, Ivory Coast and Cape Verde, Andorra, the Solomon Islands, Dubai. How about that, right?
It doesn't get any better than that. November 20th on Hulu.
Yes.
Animaniacs is back.
We're back.
And voice lessons.
Yes. Thank you very much. It's available online at Amazon or wherever. If you Barnes & Noble is open, it's there. People can find me on Twitter at Yakko Pinky, all one word, lowercase, YAKKO, PINKY, Nerv. Instagram, Rob_Paulsen, Paulsen. TikTok, Rob Paulsen 311. That's my birthday. And Facebook, Rob Paulsen voice actor. So before we go, I'd like you to ask me, Pinky, are you pondering what I'm pondering? Please go ahead.
Pinky, are you pondering what I'm pondering?
Well, I think so, Carey. But if Ann B. Davis and Susan B. Anthony, who be Arthur? Nerv.
Rob, thank you so much.
My privilege, my friend. Thank you. And keep smiling, folks. And happy Thanksgiving.
Absolutely.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you so much for watching Purple Roads. Remember to keep your eyes, ears, and your heart open, and you'll find your Purple Road. We'll see you next week.